Okay, let's dive right in. We have a story today that's, well, it's intense. It comes from a personal account, and it's a real deep dive into a marriage that just hits this catastrophic point of betrayal.
Yeah, it's about trust, isn't it? And what happens when it completely shatters the choices, the emotions. It's raw stuff.
It really is. We're looking at how people navigate that kind of devastation.
Hmm.
And the whole thing kicks off with this quote that just, it lands hard.
Yeah.
She said it wasn't cheating because she told me beforehand. She thought that made it okay. So I tore the truth off her, right in front of.
Wow, yeah, that quote, it sets the stage immediately, doesn't it? It's not just infidelity, it's something else, deliberate, framed in this really warped way.
Exactly. So the story is about John and Emily, married 5 years. They had that fun kind of meet cute start,
Yeah.
Halloween party, Gene and Tarzan.
Right, classic.
And they built a life, settled into routines. From John's point of view, things were solid. Maybe predictable, yeah, but good. He thought they were best friends, building something real, a life he could count on.
That feeling of stability is key, because it makes what happens next feel like such a sudden drop. He wasn't expecting anything like this.
Not at all. Which brings us to Act 1, the unraveling. It starts out like any other Tuesday. John gets home, does the usual "I'm home" shout, and Emily calls back, playing along with their old joke, "I'll be right down, Tarzan." Total normal.
That little detail, the callback, it just highlights the contrast, makes the ordinary feel almost fragile before the break.
Totally. So he grabs a beer, sits down, turns on the TV. Then he sees her coming down the stairs. And she's not in her usual after-work clothes. She's wearing the dress.
Oh, the little black dress, the anniversary one.
That's the one. Short, backless,
Yeah.
one that always got his attention.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the dress.
Right. The description said heels, lipstick, the necklace he just gave her, the whole package. She looked amazing, but he immediately felt something was off. Too incredible was the phrase, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Alarm bells ringing. He stands up, confused. I didn't know we had plans tonight.
And her answer just drops so casually.
Right. We don't. I have dinner with someone else. John's like, come again. Just trying to process.
And then the name, Robert Klein.
And this isn't just some random guy. John knows him. From work. Apparently notorious. Divorced twice, always hitting on married women.
Yeah, John's description was pretty brutal, wasn't it? The guy who got banned from the holiday party circuit tells you everything you need to know about his reputation.
But Emily defends him. He's misunderstood, she says. And then, chillingly, it wasn't his fault his last marriage ended. Her husband overreacted.
Ooh, hearing that now, wow. And John's reaction is immediate, protective.
Yeah, he basically says, well, this husband's about to overreact. You're not going out with that guy.
And that's where it shifts, isn't it? That clash between us and me. He's thinking about their commitment. She's pushing back with independence.
She says, you don't own me, John. I'm not your property. He tries to bring it back to their vows. What you're doing breaks every single one.
So just brushes it off.
Completely. Calls it outdated monogamy nonsense. Tells him to grow up. Can you imagine the foundation of their life just dismissed like that?
It's more than dismissing his point. It's like she's saying they're living by totally different rules now, which must have been incredibly painful and confusing for him.
He throws out the only thing he can think of. Get a divorce first. And she laughed.
Laughed. Oh, man.
Yeah. And right then, headlights sweep across the driveway. Robert Klein pulls up.
So the threat is real. It's right there. And that must have been the tipping point for John.
Absolutely. He goes to the closet, grabs an old wooden baseball bat. The story says not to actually use it, but,
Yeah.
a gesture.
A desperate, maybe primal symbol of
Something like that.
Yeah.
Emily opens the door to leave. John steps right in front of her.
And then the dress.
Yeah. In that instant, he just reaches out and rips the side seam of the dress. Open.
Oh, wow.
She gasps, just freezes. It describes the scene, bare skin, her black lace underwear, all visible under the porch light. And Robert sees the whole thing, then just peels out, gone.
That's a very destructive, very visceral reaction. Acting out that feeling of complete powerlessness in a terrible way.
He puts the bat away, like the energy just left him, grabs another beer, waits.
And then Emily comes back in, furious.
Oh, yeah. Ranting. You embarrassed me, humiliated me. He lets her go on for a bit. Then he asks, cutting right through it, what were you expecting? A quiet goodbye while you ran off to cheat?
And that's when she hits him with her logic, her justification.
I wasn't cheating, she yells. I told you before I went. That makes it honest.
Honest. Wow, that definition of honesty is something else. It feels more like cruelty masked as transparency.
That's exactly what John says. No, Emily, it makes it cruel. You wanted me to see it. You wanted me to suffer.
It really does sound like she was weaponizing the telling, forcing him to be a witness. It's less about avoiding a secret and more about inflicting a very specific kind of pain.
And then, maybe the most heartbreaking part of that whole exchange, she finally admits, almost whispering, I don't know, I miss feeling alive.
So maybe it wasn't even about Robert, fundamentally. Maybe it was about something missing inside her, a void she was trying to fill.
That's how John takes it. He knows he needs to get out of there, right then. Tells her he needs space, needs air, grabs his keys, and just leaves. Needs to breathe before saying more.
Okay, so that's the end of Act 1, just shattering.
Yeah. So Act 2, the drifting apart.
Right.
John just drives, no destination. He ends up revisiting these places that were part of their life. The grocery store, the park near her old job, places they walk the dog.
Retracing steps, trying to make sense of it, maybe. Seeing the familiar landscape through this completely new, painful lens.
Right. He eventually lands at this bar, Murphy's, only been there once before, years ago. Orders a whiskey. The bartender can tell something's up.
Looking for maybe some numbness. Escape?
Probably. The first drink burns, the story says. Second, less so. Third starts to blur things. He's scrolling his phone, looking for something. And he stops on this photo. Emily, Boston Harbor, laughing, wind in her hair, pointing at a seagull or something. Just pure joy in that picture.
Oh, that contrast. The memory of her happiness with him versus the image of her walking out the door for someone else. That must have been agonizing. How did they get from that photo to this?
Exactly. And it brings him right back to the cruelty of her honesty. How it wasn't a hidden affair, something you could maybe explain away as weakness. No, this was announced, presented like it was okay, like he got a permission slip for her betrayal.
That phrase, permission slip, is so telling. It captures that feeling of being implicated against his will, forced into a position of witnessing his own relationship's destruction. It's a nasty psychological twist.
Yeah. He eventually calls his best friend, Mason, tells him the whole story. Mason's shocked, obviously. Quiet at first.
What does Mason say?
Well, John asks him the big question. Do I fight for her? After everything.
And Mason?
Mason just lays it out. Plain and simple. Brutal truth. You don't fight for someone who already surrendered you.
Oof. That hits hard.
Yeah. John says it hit him harder than anything else because it reframed the whole thing. It wasn't about him needing to try harder. It was about recognizing she'd already checked out. She'd given them up.
That's a critical piece of insight. It shifts it from a fight against Robert to acknowledging the fight for the marriage itself was maybe already lost because one person wasn't fighting anymore.
Right. So the next morning, he goes back home early, and it's weirdly normal. Emily's making coffee, like nothing happened.
That disconnect must have been jarring. His world fell apart. Her morning routine continues.
Totally. He sits down. He needs to understand. He just asks her straight up, why him? Why Robert Klein?
The million-dollar question. Trying to find some logic in it all.
She hesitates, kind of shrugs, like she doesn't even fully know. Then she says, he listens. He makes me feel seen.
The classic explanation. Feeling unseen, unheard in the relationship. It's common vulnerability, isn't it? Maybe drifting apart happens so slowly you don't notice until someone new offers that focused attention.
But hearing that just guts John. He lists all the times he did see her, listened to her, the little things, coworker drama, bad TV shows, and the huge things, her dad dying, her sister moving away. He was there. I saw you, Emily, he says.
He's holding up years of evidence against her claim, showing the depth of his presence compared to whatever superficial attention Robert gave her.
And her response to that, tears well up. And she says, I know, that's the problem.
Whoa. Okay, that changes everything again.
Right. She explains, you saw me, even when I hated who I was becoming. And Robert, he doesn't see any of that, just the shiny version.
So it wasn't that John didn't see her. It's that he saw all of her, the parts she couldn't stand about herself. Robert only saw the performance, the escape.
Exactly. She wasn't running to Robert. She was running from herself, trying to escape her own feelings by finding someone who only reflected back the version she wanted to be.
And that's a profound realization for John, because if she's running from herself, there's nothing he can do. His love, which saw the whole picture, wasn't what she wanted in that moment. She wanted the illusion.
Yeah. He couldn't fix her relationship with herself. And that realization seems to be what finally allows him to let go.
Which leads us into Act 3, letting go and moving forward.
And the leaving part. It's quiet, no big drama, John packs just the essentials, takes the dog, his laptop, a photo of his parents, leaves everything else.
The quietness almost emphasizes the finality, doesn't it? No more fighting, just acceptance of the end. And Emily watching. No tears, no begging. It kind of confirms Mason's point again. She'd already let go in her way.
She asks him where he's going. His answer is really telling. Somewhere without mirrors. He explains he couldn't stand looking at himself in their house anymore, accepting what happened. And then he walks out.
Leaving the reflection of his broken self behind, needing a new space, literally and figuratively, to figure out who he is now outside of that relationship.
He stays with Mason, then gets his own place, a short-term rental, describes it as clean, quiet, real, his own space.
And he starts the work. Therapy, running, just learning to be okay alone again. Small steps, but they add up. Rebuilding.
Yeah, focusing inward and consciously letting go. He stops the social media stalking, stops wondering about her, stops waiting for an apology that might never come.
That's a big hurdle, isn't it? Releasing the need for external validation or closure from the other person, finding your own peace with it.
And he gets there. The story says eventually he just didn't need the apology anymore. His worth wasn't tied to her regret.
That's a huge marker of healing, reclaiming your own sense of self.
Took about 8 months, the story says. 8 months of sorting through everything, learning to like himself again, realizing he was okay on his own.
It underscores that healing isn't quick or easy. It takes real time and effort to process that level of betrayal and rebuild.
And then, just as he's found that peace, she shows up. Rainy Thursday. Knock on his door. It's Emily. Soaked. Shivering.
Oh, wow. After all that time, all that work, what does she want? What does he do?
The conversation is calm. Surprisingly calm. Some small talk about his place. Then she drops it. I've been going to therapy. I left Robert. And finally, I miss you.
The words he probably longed to hear for months. How does he react now after everything?
It shows how much he's changed. He tells her, gently but honestly, I don't think about you anymore. Pauses, clarifies. Not in the way that makes me pause mid-sentence. Not in the way that steals my sleep.
That's incredibly powerful. He's not erasing the past, but he's acknowledging he's free from its grip. She's history, not his present pain.
And then he lays out this complex truth. He says, you were the love of my life, and you also broke me in a way I'll never forget. Both can be true.
That acceptance of duality is so important, isn't it? Life, relationships, they're rarely just one thing. Acknowledging the love and the deep hurt is part of authentic healing, not minimizing either one.
Emily just nods, her lips trembling. It's like maybe she finally gets the depth of it. His final words are just, goodbye, Emily.
Simple. Final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He watches her walk away, closes the door, and the feeling isn't emptiness. It's freedom.
Wow, what a journey. Hard-won freedom, definitely. Found in letting go, not in reconciliation.
Okay, so let's reflect a bit on John and Emily, just based on this account. John starts out seeming, well, maybe a bit complacent, comfortable in the routine, stable.
Grounded in tradition, maybe?
But when that betrayal hits, and the specific way it hits, his first reaction is pure, raw emotion. Destructive even, with the dress ripping, that visceral lashing out from pain and helplessness.
Right. But then his path becomes about picking up those pieces. He's forced into self-discovery, has to really examine everything, and then actively builds a new life, finds his worth again, separate from her. His truth was tied to those vows, that shared commitment.
While Emily's truth becomes this really twisted idea of honesty. It seems like she was deeply unhappy, maybe missing feeling alive points to a real internal struggle, hating who she was becoming.
Yeah, and seeking validation outside, but from someone who only saw the shiny version, as she put it. That suggests she was running from her own self-perception, needing that external fix rather than facing her internal issues. Her version of honesty felt more like self-justification, a way to enable her escape without taking full responsibility for the impact.
Her return at the end. Maybe it shows regret. Maybe therapy helped her see things differently. But it seems like she still didn't grasp how fundamentally things had changed for John, how deep the wound was, and that he'd moved beyond needing her back.
It really highlights the damage caused. Some things just can't be unbroken.
Absolutely. And this story throws up some really difficult moral questions, doesn't it? Emily's whole "I told you so it's honest" argument forces you to think about what honesty even means in a relationship. Can transparency excuse betrayal? Does how you betray someone matter?
Definitely. Is telling someone beforehand somehow less damaging, or does it, as John felt, just add cruelty, making them a spectator to their own heartbreak?
And John's dilemma, fight or leave. Mason's advice really cuts to the core. When is fighting for it noble, and when is it just? Refusing to see that the other person has already walked away. Can trust, once broken, that fundamentally ever truly be repaired?
It makes you think about intent versus impact, too. Maybe Emily didn't intend maximum cruelty, but the impact was devastating. And it asks what healing really looks like. Is it always about forgiveness and reconciliation? Or is acceptance and moving on, like John did, sometimes the only true path forward for yourself?
Heavy stuff. Definitely gives you a lot to chew on. So for you listening, we wanted to leave you with a few questions to ponder based on this story.
First, thinking about Emily's justification. Can telling someone you intend to betray them actually make the act acceptable? Or does that kind of honesty just inflict a different, maybe deeper kind of wound?
Second, when trust is shattered so completely, like in this story, is fighting for the relationship still a viable or even healthy path? Or is there a point where letting go becomes necessary for self-preservation?
And finally, reflecting on John's journey to freedom. What does real healing look like after profound relational pain? Does it always involve finding a way back together, or perhaps forgiving? Or is accepting the loss and moving forward independently sometimes the most powerful form of healing?
Some things to think about. If this story moved you, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube.